Welcome back, America. We have Salena Zito with us, our good friend. She's from Pennsylvania. You know, Salena, I'm from Pennsylvania, too. Did you know that?
I did know that. This is why I love you.
Wow, likewise. But, you know, I'm from southeastern Pennsylvania. Montgomery County was rock-solid Republican when I was growing up. Now it's rock-solid Democrat. Big changes in that state, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you think about it, Western Pennsylvania was the home of the New Deal Democratic Coalition.
You're right.
This was the working class, steel workers, manufacturing, jobs like that, welders, whatever. It still has a hardcore population of that. However, now the working class is now the Republican Party is the party of work. And the Democrats have become the party of the elite, which live mostly in the suburbs of Montgomery County.
Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is, back then, the suburbs were Republican. The 5 big counties, they would always neutralize Philly and back and forth. And we'd always get, not always, but often, get people elected from that part of the state, western part of the state, now and then central, because the southeast part would neutralize itself. But it's different. You're right. The state has changed a lot. Now, we have a governor there who is touted as a presidential candidate. Honestly, he's a very weak governor. I've been watching. He has signed fewer bills than any governor in modern history during the same period of time. I believe they lost the state assembly, didn't they? Didn't they go Republican this election?
The state house, they have a 1-seat majority, but the state senate, they have kept. The Republicans have kept a solid majority in the state Senate. They did some redistricting 2 years ago and have made it virtually impossible for Republicans to get the House back. There were some really heavy-handed actions done by the Democratic, by commission. It was done by commission, and almost all the members of the commission were Democrats.
They all look at the model in California, and they all try and copy it because, you know, you have what are effectively statewide, what I call Praetorian elections. You have an election, but the Republicans can never win because they changed the system, they changed the population, they've changed everything for the party. I worry about Pennsylvania in that regard, but I'm now worried about Bucks County. Bucks County, again, beautiful county, very nice place. I mean, really is. It's back and forth with the Republicans and the Democrats, fairly moderate county, but you have a board of commissioners, 3 members, 2 Democrats, 1 Republican, and the Democrats have basically said, screw you, state Supreme Court. We will count these ballots that aren't signed, that aren't dated on the envelopes, even though the Democrat majority Supreme Court now has said twice you can't do that, right? Yeah.
So did you read the ruling today at all, Mark?
No.
But so the state Supreme Court, which is 5-2 Democrat majority, these are not conservative jurists. However, they are so pissed off. Excuse my cable news, my language. They are so pissed off about that's happening in Bucks and Montgomery County and Center County that they wrote the ruling in all caps.
Jeez. For even the hard to read.
It was so funny. And David Wecht, who is the son of the late Cyril Wecht, the great forensic pathologist, wrote unequivocally, cut it out. Stop it.
And he's a liberal.
And then, he is a proud liberal.
Big time.
And I don't know if you saw the breaking news tonight, but Mark Elias and the Casey campaign filed a lawsuit to have these ballots counted.
Well, what'd they do? Go to federal court? There's nowhere else to go in the state.
Yeah. So here's what I think, and this is to your earlier point that you made about California and trying to change the state by, through redistricting. Well, they're also trying to. They can't win this. Okay. However, what they're trying to do, I think, Mark, is set precedents and weaken and dilute Pennsylvania voting laws. But they can't do it by legislation, so they're doing it through. They're trying to do it through these commissioners and through the courts. And because Casey, no matter what, even if they win every illegal ballot, even if they expand all their options on every illegal ballot, the number still isn't there. Casey will still win by 15,000. I mean McCormick will still win by 15,000. So then you have to think, okay, logically, what are they doing?
Well, this is a very big point you're making, actually, very important point. So they're trying to enshrine through their illegality and dumb down this whole process where in the future, defective votes by mail, envelopes no date or the wrong date, not signed, will be counted.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I think you're right.
There's no other logical explanation for this. And they're trying to strengthen the ability to harvest ballots.
It's just incredible. And, of course, where's the national media? I didn't see any Sunday show. Maybe you did. I didn't. They're saying they won't accept the outcome of the election. They're trying to overturn all that crap they threw at Trump. Notice. And the governor, I saw that mealy-mouthed statement he put out. He's a lawyer. That is a dumb statement that people are confused. No, they're not. That's why the court did it in capitals and said,
it's very, very disappointing. I have covered Josh Shapiro for 20 years. And he is usually at least a pretty good political athlete, and he has fallen on his sword for on this, and it is embarrassing where he's placed himself in this whole situation.
Salena Zito is not only a very, very nice lady, very knowledgeable, knows all about Pennsylvania, a long-time Trump supporter, if I may say so, and we met a long time ago. I remember reading your articles, maybe interviewing you from time to time. And then we were at some place, I don't remember what it is, but it's in my mind's eye, where you called out my name and I came over. Do you remember where that was? I don't even remember.
I do remember where that was. It was one of the rare times I was in Washington, D.C., and I was some kind of, I think the media something had a dinner, an award dinner.
Media Research Center?
Yeah. You were there, and Rush Limbaugh was being honored.
Yeah. And
you were standing outside, and I called over your name because I've always been a fan of yours. And the paper that I worked at the time was owned by Richard Mellon-Scape, who was always a friend of yours.
Yes.
And that's how we met in person.
I was nice, right?
It was wonderful. It was freezing outside, and yet we stood out there and talked for like 20 minutes.
That's great. People think I'm going to bite their head off, the audience. What are you going to? No, I don't bite people's unless they deserve it.
No, you're a teddy bear.
Yeah, I'm pretty easy.
You're pretty nice. You're pretty awesome.
Let me ask you this, Salena. Is this guy Josh Shapiro, maybe he is right now on some kind of popularity high, but you've covered him. You know, I'm from Cheltenham. He was in Abington. I know what kind of Democrat we're talking about here. He was probably much more moderate when he was in the State House. Then he becomes commissioner, and then he becomes attorney general, and now he is what he is. But is he really that impressive? I'm not impressed by the guy.
Well, here's where he's been impressive to voters. So this will make you understand.
I mean, he ran against let's be honest. He ran against a total loser. I'm just being honest.
Yeah, completely. I mean, he had me. Doug Mastriano's team had me thrown out of an event.
There you go.
But here,
I mean, to throw you out of an event, you really got to be pretty low for them to do that. I mean, they have to be pretty low.
Or maybe I'm pretty low. We don't know.
You're not.
So here's where he's been impressive. Now, you have to remember a little bit of let's think of the backstory. We had 8 years of Tom Wolfe, and we almost died of boredom. And he really didn't do anything. 4 years of it were almost entirely under COVID, right? Mm-hmm. And he just never came out of his house. We really didn't have much of anything. So, you know, he gets into office and he does two things quickly and very impressively. He shows up and handles what happens on the border of East Palestine and Darlington, Pennsylvania, right? East Palestine is on the border of the state. He shows up and he comes with reinforcements. That was impressive. And people appreciated it. He had money, he had resources, and he showed up several times. The second thing he did well was I-95. When that ramp collapsed, he showed up again. He showed up with a bunch of Teamsters to fix the bridge. And visually, it was very, very impressive, but also he got it done. So, after
So he'd be a great Secretary of Transportation between the train and the road. He'd be better than Buttigieg. Yeah.
Right? And so you have to think about why he comes across as so impressive to voters is because the comparison to what they had was so weak. Right? So that's what gives him that high popularity among voters. Now, he's never had to really face something that he hasn't risen to the occasion to. It's easy, as silly as this sounds, because Biden couldn't do it, but it's easy to show up at a disaster, 2 disasters in a row. It's easy to do that, and he did it. Now, this thing is murky for him politically. Him and Casey share a strategist. They are both Democrats, and he's put in a really, honestly, I think Casey has put him in a bad position, and to date, Shapiro has not risen to the occasion in the way that voters expect him to. And I see among Republicans, there are plenty of Trump-Shapiro voters in Pennsylvania. Plenty of them. Oh, yeah. Shapiro won a ton of red counties. Remember, he was running against Mastriano. And so this has weakened him in their eyes because he hasn't done the same thing that he has done before when situations have called on him to do that. So
very interesting.
That right there is his challenge.
Now, let me ask you this. I've disagreed with people on this. They say if he were on the ticket with Harris, Harris could have won the state. I don't think so. I think Trump had a big wave election and nobody was going to stop him.
Nobody was going to stop Trump. And Shapiro, to be honest, he has a unique brand. His brand is very, very different than Harris's brand. They differed on way too many things that are important to Pennsylvania voters, in particular on agriculture and energy. And so she would have dragged him down. He would not have been able to lift her up. In other words, she would have hurt him.
So he's lucky she didn't pick him because it could have destroyed his potential presidential ambitions.
Or maybe he turned her down. There's speculation about that.
Oh, really?
Oh, okay. Yeah. There's been plenty of stories speculating that he had made it became apparent that it didn't seem like it was a good fit for him.
One more before we go. Fedman. Fedman is probably more popular than he's ever been in the state, isn't he?
Yes, that's true. And while he was on CNN on Sunday, he was asked about the Casey thing. He kind of meandered on it. Today he took a different turn. Today
really?
He said he was asked by a reporter, and he said something to the effect. I'm paraphrasing here. Something to the effect that Casey will end up doing the right thing. Again, to the point I made earlier, there are no vote. There's no magic votes. There's no more votes for Casey. No matter how much it's counted and recounted, there's no more votes for Casey.
I just don't understand how these commissioners get away with it. To be perfectly honest with you, as a lawyer, as a Philadelphia lawyer myself, that court should have put out an order and directed it, among others, the commissioners in Bucks County, you say Montgomery too, and those whatever. And if they failed to follow the order, they should have held them in contempt. And if they keep counting, you send them to jail. Right now, there's no consequences for any of this.
And that's the problem today. And that is for part of the problem of the overall rejection of Democrats in this election cycle is that the Democrats have let the idea or the ideal of consequences on numerous fronts fall to the wayside. And that has become very unpopular with the American people. And it's part of why Republicans won.
Yeah, it makes sense. All right. And by the way, this Dave McCormick is a very classy guy. Really smart. Yeah. He's accomplished. He ran a hell of a campaign. And I think Josh Shapiro at some point better watch out for him because this guy's the real deal, don't you think?
Dave McCormick is very much the real deal. I remember sitting with him just 2 weeks after he lost that primary race and interviewing him, and I said, "You thinking about doing this again?" And I could see in his eyes, I could see that calculation. He's like, probably. and that's a hard thing to say.
Yeah.
Just 2 weeks after losing by 700 votes.
Yeah. And you know what? They did the recount. He never whined about it. They did the very best they could. None of this stuff was going on, counting illegal votes and so forth.
Nope.
So if people want to follow you, they go to SalenaZito.com, yes?
Yes, SalenaZito.com. And can I make a shameless plug?
Of course. And by the way, Mr. Producer, put that on all our sites, please. Go ahead.
My shameless plug is people can pre-order my book, Butler, The Untold Story of the day the president was shot. And
when does that come out?
What happened? It's coming out on the anniversary of the assassination attempt. If people don't know this, I was 4 feet away from the president.
Oh, my God.
When that happened, I was, through a series of circumstances, I was standing in all caused by President Trump, by the way. I was standing 4 feet away from him in the buffer with my daughter. I was set to fly from Butler to Bedminster with him to do an interview on that day. And he called me the next morning. The first thing out of his mouth was, "Are you okay? Is your daughter okay?"
Mm-hmm.
And we talked a lot about faith, about an act of God, the hand of God, and just covering the whole election from Pennsylvania, and understanding that he was going to win that. He was going to win. It's a really, really compelling story. I hope people buy it. It's just called Butler.
Well, we're going to help you, Mr. Producer. Let's lock in as early as we can here, Salena, to do the book. Yeah, but you got to sign it. These people, they have their publicist send me a book. They don't sign it. I throw it away. It's like, okay,
I sign all my books.
Well, there you go. All right. Well, you're terrific, and we appreciate you. We'll have you back when your book comes out. We want to hear all about it. And people don't realize, I think our listeners do, but a lot of people don't realize what a decent human being Donald Trump is. When you get to know him, when he talks to you through events like you were just talking about, he's not focused on fame. He's not focused on fortune. He's not focused on politics. He's focused on the person right in front of them,
Oh, as soon as he saw me that day in Butler, 5 minutes before he was shot, the first thing he said was, "How is Eleonora, Milo, Rocco, and Louisa?" He remembered all four of my grandchildren's names.
Mm-hmm.
All four of them. And people can get to read about him chasing me around with a can of hairspray.
That I got to read. Okay. By the way, you won't find any hairspray in my bathroom. So,
I don't have any hairspray either, but for completely
No, I don't have any hair.
Reasons. You don't have any hair. I have too much.
Well, my wife has hair, though. She used. All right, anyway. Salena,
thanks, Mark.
You're a lot of fun. You're really a font of enormous amount of information about the Keystone State. We really appreciate it. Take care of yourself. We're going to have you back soon.
Sounds great. Have a great evening.
All right, you too. God bless. Is she not the nicest person, Mr. Producer? Really nice. A real journalist, by the way.